good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you might be joining us from in the world today. My name is Meg Alexander. I am, as always, honored and excited to get to host another Power to Fly Chat and Learn virtual event. So today we're going to be talking about making a change, preparing for your career pivot. Now, I'm very excited to dive into this subject and dive in with our speaker today. But before we do that, real quick, I do want to flash our code of conduct on the screen for everybody. It is a big, scary wall of legalese, but truly, y'all, what it boils down to is just don't be a jerk, okay? As long as we operate from a place of kindness and respect, it's pretty hard to go wrong from there. If you got questions on this, though, don't be scared by all the legalese. You can always DM me. You can find my name, Meg Alexander, in the dropdown. DM me if you got any questions on this. I'm happy to give you any info your heart desires. All right, now this is going to get us into some housekeeping. So this is the very important part of the event, especially if this is your first Power to Fly event. And if that's the case, then hi, welcome. We're so happy to meet you. Now, the love is no less real for my frequent flyers. So whether this is your first Power to Fly event or your 50th, I am incredibly honored that you came to spend time with us today. Now, the big thing to know about Power to Fly events is they're all about you. We want to make sure that you all get the most out of today's event. So the way that you can do that, the best way is by participating. If you want to do that by turning your cameras on, I am always encouraging y'all. You're very welcome to share your smiling, maskless faces with us here safely. Now, there is no need to be Instagram perfect, okay? Just because I got real fancy and actually washed my hair today does not mean that you can't come here with your messy buns, your bathrobes. We don't care, okay? We don't want to stand on ceremony. We just want to meet you where you are. Now, if you do want to participate, but you don't want to do so with your camera, that's okay. You're always welcome to write in the chat. Chandra is leading the charge for us there. Thank you, Chandra. Please feel free, y'all. Dive in and let us know where you're joining from. I'm coming to you from Toledo, Ohio. This is land that belonged to the Fox, Kickapoo, and Potawatomi tribes in my area. So please feel free to let us know where you're joining us from in the world today. And if you know whose land you're on, you're also welcome to share that too. Now, we are recording today's session, and what that means for all of you is you don't have to take notes. You get to sit back, relax, enjoy the conversation that I'm about to have with Joel, and not worry if you miss a link that's shared or a resource or anything. So, what's going to happen is that everybody who registered for today's event, whether you joined us or not, everybody's going to get a rewatch email, my bad, from Power to Fly in about 4 to 5 business days. So you'll get it sometime next week. That link will, that's where we will remind you like, hey, you can watch this again. We're posting it on powertofly.com. Now, let's say that Joel shares something absolutely mind-blowing today and you cannot wait to share it with a friend or a coworker or a relative. You don't have to wait. You can head over to our YouTube channel. Hi, YouTube. We're broadcasting right now. But you can head to our YouTube channel and there will be, the videos are posted usually by the end of business today. And there is a huge, like a whole library of past chats there, some of our greatest hits. There's some great stuff on that channel. But honestly, y'all, the real money is in the website. Okay, that's where all of our resources are. That's where everything that we think that will do you good in your working world and in your working life, everything is there. So I very much recommend, if you've checked out our YouTube channel, awesome, but definitely check out our website, powertofly.com. Now, as we go through today's session, if you've got questions, please shout them out. Ask early, ask often. That is going to be the best way that we make sure that you are able to get your questions addressed today. Gotta love our Ohio people. Awesome. All right, y'all. Now, as we go through to the event, I do also just want to highlight that Joel is here today, as should be obvious, on behalf of Zapier. Now, Zapier has been a Power to Fly partner for a while. I was actually on their accounts when I was on the talent team, so they are near and dear to my heart. But Zapier is an amazing company. Rob's grabbing the link, actually, I think, from powertofly.com. So that way y'all can check out their company page and what it looks like right now. That's what you're seeing on the slide in front of you. The little QR code that's on the slide, that'll also get you there. So that way you can have a good idea of, who Zapier is. Now, once you get into that page, Zapier's page on powertofly.com, make sure that you tap that big pink button that says follow there, guys. That's going to do some really great things for you, but effectively what it's going to do is it's going to allow Power to Fly to tell you when Zapier has new roles that they're posting or if they're going to host new events. But it also allows Power to Fly to tell the Zapier team that you are interested in them even before you fill out an application. So it's a really, really good option if you are either actively job seeking and don't see something that suits you right the second, or if you are just kind of curious, you want to know what's out there. That way, when you come back to Power to Fly later on, you already have a short list of companies that you really connect with, that you are interested in learning more about. So I very much encourage y'all to take a look at them on their company page on powertofly.com. The other thing I just realized I didn't do the little intro bit on who Zapier is. So Zapier is on a mission to make automation work for everyone so that every person and every business can move forward faster. They are the leader in no-code automation, enabling you to automate workflows and move data across 7,000 plus apps. Zapier employees work with what you work with across your apps and tech stack so that you can make magic happen regardless of your IT infrastructure or your support team. Now, to give us some more info on that, I'm really excited to introduce you to a Zapier star who's here to talk to us today. Now, Joel is here. He's a senior backend engineer with Zapier, been there for about 15 years, and Joel is currently based in Southern California. He started his career in architecture and design before he made the leap into tech. And it's a transition that has deeply shaped his perspective and his passion for helping others to do the same. Now, Joel, I'm really excited to introduce you to today's audience. But before we dive in on Zapier, what else would you like our audience members to know about you?
Yeah, hey, I'm Joel, and last name's pronounced Taddei. I think you got that perfectly. But I came to software when I had to career pivot, and it was a really trying time for me. And I came away with a lot of experience in that. And again, that was like about 15 or so years ago. So it was a much different world that we have now with career pivots. So I've had to sort of keep up with the times and the tools of what are going to be able to enable people to go from one career to another. In my free time, I love making music. I've got behind me my little music studio. I've got a huge family. We got like 6 kids, and yeah. What's
Yeah,
that?
you weren't kidding. It's the six of the lot. Um, and I say that coming from an Irish Catholic background. So, no, that's wild. Clearly you have just so much time on your hands with a giant family.
Yeah.
So yeah, all right, let's dive in here. Okay, as we go through today, I just want to encourage y'all, if you have questions, please, please, please feel free to ask them in the chat. We'd love to make sure we get to your questions today, especially since you all are here live with us for the recording. So ask early, ask often. That way we can try and get through as many questions as possible with Joel today. All right, Joel. So let's start from the career pivoting. I think everybody comes to career pivoting from a different place, different reasons, different time in the world. So would you tell us a little bit about what your career pivot was like? The circumstances and where you came from and where you went into.
Yeah, so I my original career that I thought I was going to do for the rest of my life was in architecture and design. That's what my bachelor's is in, and I sort of had a specialty interest in 3D visualization, things like that. I wasn't doing any coding at that point. But around 2008, 2009, those of us that were in the workforce around then remember really hard times happening around many different industries. And architecture, it was like you could metaphorically, you could just hear the building cranes stop in the city of Chicago where I was living at that time. And so that came with, a couple of layoffs bouncing around from odd jobs here and there. And it was after a little bit of time spending not really in a career focused time of my life, found myself like, well, it's time to maybe abandon ship on the architecture front and maybe sort of explore some other things that might be a possibility. So I sort of went back to my high school experience and remembered that I had taken a computer programming class in high school, and I'd grown up with computers all my life, so that was nothing that was too foreign for me. And I had a lot of friends who had gone from high school and found a lot of success in software development. So I was like, well, I want some of that success. So At that time, I was working at a hotel, working the third shift night audit. I don't know if anybody has any hotel experience, but yeah, that's a very lonely job. And I was folding towels, and I asked my manager, I was just like, "Can I like do some online coding or like go through this book that I had? I got a book on Python from Barnes and Noble. And I was like, can I just work through these exercises after I'm done with my all my work and just I'm done watching TV?" And he was cool with it. And so I started with that, and I took, I think, two community college courses remote at that time. And yeah, it eventually led to getting an interview. I had a couple interviews, but one interview actually stuck. Got a job in the interview. They're like, hey, can you build out an example application? Because I was at that point, I was building little toy applications. And like, can you build something that does this? I was hired as a result of that. And then, the rest is kind of history. It was growing in different aspects. I moved across the country, um, took a pivot into mentoring and teaching software development for a short period of time, working at a code school called the Iron Yard. They're no longer around, but a lot of people who worked there have gone on to work and found other code schools. Um, After the Iron Yard was sort of over, I took a pivot back into full-time software development, and yeah, worked at a couple different places doing a couple different things, and currently at Zapier doing automation and working on the tables product.
It's honestly really, really nice to talk to somebody who was in the working world back then, because I don't know how many people on today's call are going to have, people that have been around that long, but that was scary, y'all. Like, stuff changed and everything we were told was all of a sudden not true anymore. And it was wild. And I was only like, I was at the very beginning of being in the working world and remembered how like terrifying it was to be like, oh yeah, just get your degree, it'll be fine. You just need a degree, it's fine. And then did the story change.
Yeah,
So okay.
I real quick, I had actually had a very close. I almost joined the Navy actually during that period of career pivot. That was like sort of the last, the last, and there's nothing wrong with the Navy at all.
No.
I'm from a very very wide military family, so that's why Navy was an option. But I was like, when I was weighing all my options, the last thing I hit before a career pivot was like, what's the thing I can do with my architecture and like engineering experience? And that was to go into the Navy to be like a construction engineer. And so I actually got to like the final round before they say, okay, you can go to OCS now, where you can go train to be an officer. The recruiter who was going through my paperwork did a once over and realized the degree that I had got my architecture degree in. It was not accredited by the
By the
NAAB
right
on it,
people.
but it is
Hmm.
now, like it was at that time. But they're like, no, you can't be grandfathered in the federal sense, but you could on the state sense. So it's like I could have been an architect in Illinois at that point, but I could not have joined the military with that credential. So after that was sort of phased out, I was like, okay, maybe I just need to abandon this
Yeah, might
construction.
that might be the note to take from that, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, so yeah, I think you're definitely among friends there. There's a lot of people who were in the workspace at that point. Um, okay, so one of the things that we get asked, especially now, a lot of people want to know the best strategies if they're trying to pivot from a non-tech industry into a technical role. So we do hear this a lot from people that are obviously like going back to school, or they're going to coding boot camps, people that are teaching themselves. So it's not just like, oh, I'm going to move from this to that. There's, an education section in there too. But
yeah.
what do you think people should be remembering, or they should keep in mind if they're trying to pivot into tech from something that is decidedly not tech?
Sure, sure. And I've actually worked with a lot of people who have came into tech from a non-technical background, people who have kitchen experience, people who have an aviation experience, people have like experience just managing a church, working into tech. Um, and a lot of them, this bit of advice, even though it's a much different world now than it was 10 years ago, um, the bit of advice that does not change even from when I was getting in is a full and total immersion for a period of time when you're planning on starting to make your pivot. Um,
Yeah.
and that is similar to like if you wanted to learn a new language or really master any sort of new skill. If you don't allow yourself a period of time of full and total immersion, then you're really setting yourself up for a long drawn out process. where it could have a lot of opportunities to have like a failure to start. So what I mean by a full and total immersion is like it actually is exactly how it sounds. Is the advice that was given to me when I was ready to take my pivot from one of my tech friends was is that you really have to just be thinking about it all the time. You have to be reading about it. Um, one of the things that like I do now, like when I want to pick up a new hobby, because I'm just someone who collects hobbies, is that I
Me
try
too.
to right. I tried to ease my algorithm towards the target that I want to get. Right. So it's like if my current hobby is um, learning how to use a new instrument or a synthesizer or something, I'll just search it a lot and then my social media like shorts or TikToks or whatever, they will follow suit and they will show me what I want to see. And that will sort of keep me energized in that pathway. And it's no
I
different.
love
Like if you
that.
want to learn more things about coding, like go follow, like those are the people you subscribe to, and your content will follow. So that is one level of immersion. So that when you're just like sort of laying down ready for bed, doing your scrolling, it's not just going to be silly cat videos, which are fun, but it's also going to be somebody like telling you like these are the technologies that you probably should be learning, or like here's 10 tips to get started. So that's another way of total immersion. Another level of immersion is really just not asking for permission to get started. Tech is a fantastic industry to pivot into because it doesn't really require, at least a lot of areas that I'm aware of, do not require like a terminal degree or a professional accreditation. Now, those kinds of professional accreditations do exist, and they can be very valuable, and they can be held to high esteem from certain organizations. Um, but I have never, in my own experience, encountered a situation where it's like I didn't have an AWS and Amazon Web Services accreditation, so I was passed over for a position, at least that I know of.
Hmm.
Really, what shined was my experience. And experience is something that you really don't have to ask for permission to get in tech with the availability of your resources to start. So that can be things just like reading blog posts for people who say that, like if you look up who do I follow, who are people influencers in this space, like those can be the people that you're getting your content from. There's also a number of free resources to get started, like freecodecamp.org. I think that's still around. It used to be. But a lot of times what are the like you can ask your search engine or ChatGPT, what are some great organizations to follow for resources? And they can point you in the right direction. It's while I'm a huge proponent of the code school, like the brick and mortar, show up, do your work like it's a full-time job, I don't think it should ever be a first step for somebody. So their first step should actually be like how can I dip my toes into this, right? Is this the industry? Is tech right for me? Because it's not right for everybody. The whole mantra of everybody should learn to code, I don't agree with that. I think that everybody that wants to code should give it a try. And if it works out in your favor, like that's great. Or if you think it's something you might be interested in, it might be great. There are aspects that you can see in your life that like you might not know it, but you're thinking like a programmer. Like years ago
Hmm.
when I tried out knitting, right, I realized like this is like how a program executes, right? It's a very
Yeah.
structured, repeatable pattern. So it's like or like when I untangle jewelry or something, right? Like that's like what it feels like to debug something in my brain in code. Now, of course, there's a chasm of steps to get to for one thing. I when I said I collected hobbies, that was very much a temporary way to spend some time on a long car trip.
Oh,
Was
it's a good one. I like reteach myself how to knit about every 4 to 6 years because I'll just I'll be in a car trip or I'll be what did we do the last time? Oh, rewatching all of Star Wars, all of it. Okay.
Wow.
Oh, my nerd score is so high right now, but I'm telling you, like that is a time when you need something to keep your hands busy so that you sit so that you're not leaving. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so as we are talking about pivoting, um, all right, if we are trying to pivot into a new role, and like you said, like code school shouldn't be your first step, okay? What what should people think about or what do you think that they need to start a successful pivot or to start a successful transition? If it's not enrolling in school, where should people start?
You are going to want to get a plan and give yourself some time to execute that plan. Now, that is super easy for me to just say, plan out the rest of your 3 or 4 months when you're just like, well, that's what I came here for advice. And this is actually the new thing to add into career pivot advice is that no, I hope none of us are strangers to ChatGPT or Anthropic's Claude or anything like that. And I'm not here to tell anybody to use those tools to learn how to code, but they are fantastic at making plans. They are fantastic for preparing for things. They are fantastic for strategizing, giving yourself inspiration of like when you get stuck. I have used it before to repair like a tape deck. It's just like I explain that the model, and it's got all of this experience of how to troubleshoot it. So, when you find yourself wanting to career pivot, and those first steps, it's just like, what can I do? And the reason why I like to suggest an AI tool for that is because it can really tailor to not just the career that you want to go to, but like your current situations too. So like if you're a busy parent that doesn't have a lot of time, maybe you have some time in the evening. It can probably help you plan out your day or something like that. Or it can be like, okay, we need to maximize the time. So these are the things that you need to focus on first. Because especially in tech, there's things that you're learning every day. And what's the most impactful things you can start with? Start with your plan and start with some time to execute on it.
Yeah. No, I think that's genius. And we were talking lightly before the event started, about AI and how a lot of what we were going to be talking about was going to reference stuff like ChatGPT. And I think you're absolutely right. It's one of those things that like I never had a tool that would make the lists for me. I This was the list making apparatus, right?
Yep.
So if you can get your head wrapped around that, oh my God, the world is your oyster when it comes to ChatGPT. Like it's bonkers. Um, okay, I still want to stay within the transitioning like framework and that kind of strategy, but how if we're talking to somebody who is trying to pivot, but they're coming off of a career break as opposed to going from one career to another, what do you think needs to change within that transition? Like within the plan, what should people be thinking of if they're not pivoting from full-time role to full-time role?
Well, I think the first thing to realize is that career breaks, they don't seem to be as stigmatized as they used to be in the past.
Thank
But
God, right? Oh my gosh.
for sure, it was most definitely something I carried around with me for years while I was trying to like, okay, I'm an architect. Let me go do architecture stuff. It's like, and then you see like, oh, here's a year and a half where you weren't architecting. Were you in jail? Were you, what happened there? And, or it kind
Were
of,
you lost in the woods? What
right.
happened?
Or it kind of give me this feeling that I was unemployable. It's just like, is there something that this guy's doing wrong that other people are catching? And so,
Mhm.
and I got inside my head a lot with that. Um, but yeah, I think that if you're transitioning from a long career break, you've already had some runway to sort of plan out your approach. And I think at that point, before you start digging in, and it doesn't have to be just in tech, really, I like to focus on a career pivot that where you're making a thing, right? And that could be if you want to be a baker or if you want to repair bicycles or something, those kinds of things. It's time to start building up your portfolio. And I don't mean a literal portfolio where like you take out pages and you print things off. It's sort of like the corpus of your work. So I'm a huge proponent of not waiting for permission to get started. And this was something that I carried over from the frustrations from my previous career. It's like, as an architect, if I wanted to architect something, I had to get somebody who wanted to pay a bunch of money and then I had to get a town acceptance or something. But if I wanted to build an app, I didn't have to wait. I could just build it out and test it out with my friends and see if they liked it. And most times they didn't. If you want to learn how to do some cooking or something like that, right? Invite your community over, invite your friends over, start building up and get your feedback. And document, right? Like, so if you're getting into tech and you're building something, put it out there into the world. Give your product, give your thing to the world, and you can care what the world says about it, or you can not care. Like that's kind of up to you. I have a default to caring, and so that was a
Oh,
big
same. Isn't it
barrier.
the worst?
Yeah, it was a big barrier a lot of times. I built this app once and it was such a neat little idea that I thought, and I drove to this like live competition where I like showed it to everybody and nobody wanted to talk to me about it. And I think I went back home and I just stopped working on it at that point, but like, or at least stopped like showing it to people after that.
Hmm.
But I didn't stop showing that product in the tech circles. Like the product that I was building for the users, I was like, okay, so that didn't really pass that test. I was still a really new developer, but that tool was something that I was building and I was able to learn from when I would go talk to potential employers or when I was trying to improve a skill of something that I had at work that I could go home and kind of work on this. So yeah, that's a really long-winded way of saying kind of get to work on what you want to build. Like when you are coming off of a time of a career break, you want to have something to show for it. And if you can't show years of experience paid, you can show years of experience that you paid from yourself, from your time.
Yeah. Can we say that louder for the people in the back? Just because you didn't get a paycheck from it does not mean you did not learn a skill, okay? It does not mean you did not. Like, this is the one thing that I get on my soapbox so fast is for people that are like, well, but I was a mom. What was I doing? Girl, you were alive and in the world. That means you were figuring out how to stay alive and most likely keep other smaller people dependent on you alive. That's skill after skill after skill. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean like it's one of those things of like the time's gonna pass anyway. You spent time, you know you learned from it. So do not wait for a paycheck or for permission to put that crap on your resume. Please, y'all, please. Oh my gosh, you know how to do so many cool things. Oh, all right. A lot of people chiming in, loving what you're saying about how kind of the biggest hurdle is actually inside your own head. That is huge, y'all. And that's not to be pejorative about it, the hurdles are big even when they're just inside your skull, okay? They are there, they are real. It's a huge thing. So thank you, all of you, for sharing this with us. We really appreciate y'all coming together and sharing this stuff with each other. Okay, a lot of people once we start having the conversation about pivoting, then it becomes transferable skills, right? So you want to talk about like what you can pull from the field or wherever you were previously into the next. um if you are still developing a skill, how do you market it?
Yeah, that's a real good one. And that was something that I brought to a lot of the students that I mentored is that if they came from a world where they had a lot of experience or they were like the person to depend on, they would get like they would still be coming and showing up to the code school like I'm starting from scratch. Um, I only have soft skills. And it's like you that is not true. Soft skills are a lot stronger than a lot of people give them credit for. And that's because especially if you're coming from a background where communication is very important, like collaboration, like if you are in a leadership role, that's not a huge skill that's taught with more traditioning or with more traditional engineering education pathways. That was a mouthful to get out. So, and I mean that to say that is like, someone going through a traditional computer science education, they are going to be able to run circles around you in data structures and networks and things like that. But you've got a leg up on them because you have years of experience of dealing with people and showing up and knowing what it's like in the workplace. So I have oftentimes seen it with my own two eyes. I saw it with myself as well, is that that entry level person of myself or yourself, you find yourself progressing to those entry level stages quite quickly. When you get to that entry level, you find yourself moving quickly because you are able to navigate the workforce. You have seen the pitfalls. You like your spidey sense starts going off when you see things that aren't right. Whereas someone who is newer in engineering or newer in their role, no matter what it is, they're probably just going to expect that that's the way that it is. So soft skills are extremely important, and they're you can't really put them on a portfolio, but they really sell themselves in the interview when you're able to talk to somebody and say, this is an example, or these are some examples when I have demonstrated this soft skill, leadership, collaboration, communication, empathy, all of those kinds of things that employers don't put on like we need these things, but those are the things that
But
are
they're
going to keep
definitely
moving forward.
there.
Yeah, a smart hiring manager will target those things. I have been in interviews where like someone is just beaming with soft skills, and you give them a shot, and like yeah, they might take a little bit longer to get ramped up. Like that learning curve is a little bit steeper for them, but they get through that mid-level to senior levels much faster.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a really important thing to remember. Oh Lord, I can't even tell you how many pivots I've been through at this point in my big age of almost 40. But like my husband just went through it within the last like 2 or 3 years. And that was the big thing I had to kind of remind him to was like, you're new at this. It's okay to be new at this because you're literally brand new to this. So I think that's the other thing is like remembering that like it's a trade-off. And yeah, you feel brand new and you feel like you don't know how to do all these things, but I love that. Like lean on your soft skills. Remember the things that you do know how to do and you didn't know how to do them as a baby, which means guess what? Those are skills you had to learn on and work. And so that makes them marketable.
Well,
Um,
and two, just to
go ahead,
add
please.
one quick thing to that is that when you find yourself as someone who with strong soft skills, um, and you're kind of getting into engineering, shoot, you know what? I think that thought just escaped me. I was,
Oh, it's okay. That happens to me constantly.
yeah,
Sorry.
someone just ran across here and I was just like, oh, I think I lost my thought. But we'll come back to that if it comes back to me.
Okay. All right, let's see. We do have one question from the audience. I do want to pick this one up because it's really interesting. Nathalia says, my past language learning experience, which was spoken, always involved conversation partners. I made solid progress in immersion and following learning paths like Free Code Camp. The piece that I feel like I'm missing is pair programming or someone similar to have a conversation experience. Are there learning opportunities like this out there? Is that a thing?
I am not aware of a community. I know there are communities like no code ops where it's just like a group of people who that have a shared interest. I know there are, there's a subreddit for everything at reddit.com. Beginner programming, things like that. It really will take a little bit of searching for the people that you want to connect with. Um,
Mhm.
and this is another area too where programming with an AI may not feel natural to really anybody. It shouldn't feel natural to anybody at this point because it's brand new. If it feels natural, then like congratulations,
You're
you
a
know how
time
to build
traveler.
robots, right? Um, but something that I've seen in my own work is that ChatGPT can really help break through a lot of language barriers. And I don't mean using it as a translator. I just mean like talking it to it in your native language, explaining the problem to it, and then maybe even asking it like, how can I effectively communicate this point to somebody, or maybe having an opportunity for it to pair program with you, like show it a block of code and don't ask it to fix it for you. Ask it what it thinks about it and have it talk to you in your native language, and if you want it to be have it tell you back in a way that maybe more people can understand. It really tends to bridge a language gap there, and I use it for a lot in a lot of ways in my own work to do that.
Oh, I love this. We're also getting people chatting,
Oh, yes,
adding in the chat. Beth says there's communities of developers and developer advocates on Twitch and other platforms where you could help find a coding buddy. So I really like that response. It's a
nice.
good one. Kat also chimed in saying that Kaggle does competitions and might have group coding experiences as well. So thanks y'all for the crowdsourcing on this. I love these. I love it when we're able to learn from each other as well because I get to talk to so many cool people. So I love getting to share this with everybody. All right. Okay. A lot of people, especially if they are still currently learning, they, myself included, very much discount and discredit the skills that we are picking up because I'm still learning. What is a better way to talk about this and like to talk about the skills you're developing while you are still developing them?
What is a better way to talk about your skills while you're developing them? I think showing the skills are the best way to talk about them. Um, Being involved in your local community, I give this with the caveat that this is mostly applicable to people who live near larger population centers. Like if you're fairly rural, you might have a drive ahead of you. Um, but in really most any large town, you're going to find technical meetups. And those are the people who want to hear about your project the most. They can kind of have this intimidating feel when you show up. It's like there's all these experts that they're working on their super important work, and maybe you show up and you just have this like little toy project. But trust me, to trust me 100 times over, is that if you start talking about the project that you're working on, or like, some flavor of project you're working on, or something you just want to work on, and maybe you're asking for advice, they will talk to you. And they will be able to point you in certain directions. That was something I saw a lot of, and that was one of those like stepping just outside of my comfort zone things, because like we do feel really comfortable learning how to do a thing in our own bubble, but you really can't succeed in that way. You
Mhm.
have to you can build your strategy, you can execute on it, but when it comes to existing in the real world, you're going to have to work with other people. You're going to have to live in a community. You're going to have to, be part of growing that community as well. So being involved and leveraging their networks, their intelligence, their passions, that's a great way for you to kind of develop your own. And it gives you a model to follow of, when you were just learning, somebody pointed you towards this program,
Mhm.
you can do the same in 3 or 4 years, or right, within a year if you want,
Yeah. Oh, okay. I love this. All right. One of the things that we had a lot of questions about were things on like certifications, what classes, what certifications should people go after? Obviously that question or that answer is going to change hugely depending on the person asking it. But like similarly when we talked about earlier, like a coding boot camp shouldn't be your first step. What should people do if they're trying to do this research? How do they know that, they're spending good money or that this is a legitimate certificate? Is there anything that you use to make sure that you are kind of on the right track?
I don't really chase certificates anymore, because they're not really all that utilized, at least in my particular area of software development. It's not to say that they're totally antiquated, but I would look to see, the people who hold these roles in on LinkedIn, people who, if you just look up like software developer, you might find a bunch of people in your area. You can see their accreditations, um, their certifications that they have. Um, and a lot of times you can connect with them, reach out to them, ask them, hey, did you pay for that? Did your company pay for it? How much was it? Because some of these certifications are stupid expensive. And
Yeah.
in tech too, it's like I worked tangentially in the insurance industry too, and in the past, and that was like the big one there was the CPCU, at least at
Mhm.
that mutual was, and that can cost $5,000 to get. Like, you don't want to go spend 5,000 of your own dollars to get this accreditation, to maybe that's not what you want to do. So you
Yeah.
really want to start with like a low barrier to entry, right? You want to dip your toes in before you do the full immersion plunge. Um, there will be a financial aspect to it. That's kind of how these accreditations and certifications, they make their money, and they don't
Yeah.
exist without people paying for them. But there are testing centers all over the place, maybe a local community college, maybe like a Sylvan Learning Center, where you can you are going to be in the situation where you're going to be self-studying. So you probably want to get a study guide, of whatever the certification is. And then you also want to make sure that it's not like there's not like accreditation requirements in addition to the test, right? So you don't want to get ready to take the test and realize that, oh, there's actually 60 hours of accredited university study that's also required too. Like, that's something that you want to learn day zero. So that's all part of your planning. And also figure out with the technical, like in tech, cybersecurity and things like that, it's alphabet soup, really, when you're talking about like which accreditation. There's going to be like CompTIA, there's A plus, there's like all these things that, like, what do they even mean? Like, the actual name of the certification doesn't mean anything on its own. So you need to go and find, what's the one that you want to chase after? Is it cybersecurity? Is it just, network management? I don't believe there's actually one for like just general software development. But that's when you're going to start finding, okay, maybe it's more of the code school model that's right for me. It's like I've done my research, I've done some projects, I've talked with people. Now I'm ready to actually dive in, but I can't quite do it on my own. The total immersion is not possible really for everyone. So at
Mhm.
that point, that's when you're like, okay, now let's kind of dig into my pocketbook and see if my family can afford this, or if I can take time away to be full time for 3 to 4 months.
Yeah. Something else, y'all, just because of who I am as a person, even if you're not America based or North America based right now, check out your library. Okay. They have resources upon resources that go to waste when people don't use them. So ask at your local library, like, hey, are there any sort of like coding clubs that y'all run through here? Are there computer accreditations? There's all kinds of programs that they offer. So just ask a librarian, hey, this is what I'm doing. Does the library have any resources to support a pivot from this to this? You will be shocked. Okay, there's tons of stuff out.
Yeah, and
Um,
local
oh,
user
go
groups
ahead.
too. Local user groups are another really good area. You can find them through meetup.com, or a lot of times a community will have a Slack meetup. Like in here in Greenville, we have a thing called Hack Greenville, which is, everybody's allowed to join Hack Greenville, whether or not you're a current programmer, or whether you want to be a programmer. You pop into the general channel and be like, help, who's hiring right here? What are the languages people are hiring for? People are building out their plan. But yeah, local user groups will also know about local conferences, which are essentially the user groups that are blown up in size, and they last 1 or 2 days throughout the year. And those are also great places. And I'm not talking like Amazon's reInvent or like Apple's WWDC. I mean, like, these are a group of people who get together on a Saturday and Friday just because they love it. And if cost is actually a factor, a lot of them, I can't speak for all of them, but I know this local one we have around here has like sort of a financial grace. Like if you reach out and you say, this is too much for me, there's a pool of money that will be able to help people who like legitimately can't. And I don't think you have to prove it or anything. You just be like, it's something I want to go to, but cost is a factor. So a lot of community events like that will help you. So you just have to kind of find them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see what questions we're getting here. Okay. Oh, all right. So a lot of people that wrote in with questions earlier, they wanted to talk about the impact of AI on career pivots and things like this. So early on, you talked about having done this multiple times in your working life and how, in 2008 to 2010-ish, it was a completely different world. And I feel like we're kind of at that same point now with AI where we're at that precipice and we know that it's all going to change. We just don't exactly know how. So, what do you think the rise of AI is going to do when it comes to career pivoting and roles like this, especially companies like Zapier? What do you see coming?
Yeah, Wade, our Zapier CEO, says it better than anybody I've ever seen it said. And I don't know if he copied it or if he came up with this. He's a smart dude, so probably came up with it. But the idea is that at least at Zapier, AI is not coming for your job yet, or not yet. It's not immediately coming for your job. But what is coming for your job, if you're not using AI, are people who are using AI. So that is essentially saying do not sleep on it. If you have like a moral objection to it, you can have that. I actually have my own moral objections to AI and free use and art and things like that. We're a very artistic musical family. But, you know, I it's a tool that I need to use every day, and it's a tool that I need to build every day. And so, you know, if I don't use it, somebody else will use it and they will be able to run laps around me. So my advice to career changers with AI is to not sleep on it and to actually have it be probably the number one tool that you have. Because never in the history of civilization has there been this level of accuracy and human output where you can just like look into a crystal ball, ask it a special little question, and it'll give you an answer with a very high level of accuracy. It's not 100%. Everybody knows that. They hallucinate. So, you have to treat it with that level. But, my buddy Jake, who was helping me learn to program, wasn't right all the time either. He had his own biases. Um, so I had to kind of like, and I do advise, when you're using AI, put it through your own filter. Take what it says and be like, how does that sit with me? Um, do I agree with that? Is that something that I can enact? And then act on it if you agree with it. So all that to say again is that people who are pivoting should not just be embracing it. It should be probably at the front and center, the top tool in their tool chain, because it can be a mentor. It can help you strategize. It can get you unstuck when you have a syntax error in your code. It can help you study for your exam. It can generate a recipe with what you've got in your fridge. It can help you with a workout plan. It can help you build habits. It can give you a schedule, right? Like all these things that you think like, I wish I could do this, but I don't have this. Like it won't change your filters in your house, your air filters, but it very well could tell you where to get them and how to install them.
Create a shopping list, and here's the tools you're also going to need when you have to go access where that air filter goes. And yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
So
I
be
mean,
afraid of it.
I'm sure I'm sure that the analogy isn't perfect, but I tend to look at AI like the calculator. We've been on abacuses this far, and now we have a calculator in our hands, and we're all like, "Oh, it's going to do all of the adding." Okay, well, great. It's going to do all the adding. Now I don't have to. Hooray! Like,
Yeah.
yeah, think about it in ways that of how it can improve your life and streamline it because truly, if you think it can probably do it, it almost certainly can. Like it's pretty great, y'all. I'm loving it. Like as somebody who is wildly like ADHD, can't stay on task, all kinds of stuff, like it's really reinventing a lot of stuff for me. Um,
I would really
okay.
encourage folks to use it not just as a way to get to an endpoint, but also really to fill in the gap between a starting and an endpoint. And that starting
Yeah.
endpoint can be conceptually anything you want it to be. It could be, I'm here. This is my situation. I want to get here. I want to have this. I want to learn this. Fill in the gaps for me. And then everything in those gaps that don't seem clear, just ask it to zoom in on it. Just be like, more detail about this, please. You don't even have to be polite. People are polite to AI. You don't need to be polite. You could just say more detail on this, more detail on this. I don't have time to say please to an AI. So,
I'm sorry. You have to say please. Otherwise, when the robots take over, how are they going to know that you're special?
well, I hope as a programmer, like when they take over, they'll be like, we remember you.
That's right. Oh, Joel's cool. It was that cold was
Yeah,
crispy. Oh, we love Joel. Joel's the best. Yes,
yeah.
Joel is
No,
cool. Jonathan's in the back saying, "This is how we get Skynet."
yep, yep. This is how
Oh
Skynet
my
happens.
God. Okay, all right, let's keep it moving, y'all. Let's see. Oh, all right, this is a good question. How do I leverage LinkedIn effectively during a career transition, especially if I have a gap?
Yeah.
I'm huge on this. So what do you say?
So a big one for me there is stating your purpose in your headline. Um, you know, I I've heard mixed things about like the open to work banner that's on the screenshot. I'm not really sure if people have seen a lot of success with that. That's one element that I am a little bit naive to, if that's worked for people or if it ha hasn't. So I cannot advise whether or not like, yeah, I mean, honestly, it can't hurt, right? Or
Yeah.
maybe it can. Like maybe if someone tells you, but yeah, stating your purpose in your headline and a summary, let people like tell your story. That's your opportunity. Like back, 20 years ago, we all had individual like blogger things where we can tell our little story. Now we've all got our social media pages um, in a professional sense to tell what you want to tell about yourself. In a work-related sense, we have our LinkedIn pages. So that's your area where you can write a blog post about what you learned today, or that can be where you can write a little blurb about a thing you built and just show it off. And yeah, you're probably only going to get one thumbs up from your friend for a long time, but that's one of
And your
those.
mom, don't forget, she loves to see your updates.
Yeah, mom loves to see updates. You always got to make the updates for mom. But the thing is that consistency really is a thing that's rewarded on social media. Anybody who's ever built sort of a successful or healthy social media community knows that consistency is gold. In a lot of cases, like your content can just be like, whatever. But if you're consistent and you are providing on a reliable cadence, you will catch some people's attention. I've got a lot of friends in my network that just made a goal for themselves, like post every day, post every other day, right? And when they ran out of ideas, you know what they did? They asked AI for inspiration. What should I post about today? These are the things I posted about in the past. What should I post today? It doesn't write the post for them, or maybe it does. I don't know. I hope it doesn't, but yeah,
Who's to say?
it sort of gives them that level of consistency. So show a nice, healthy. Do not allow your LinkedIn to be like no profile picture, just like the state that you live in, your name, and then like where you went to high school. really dress it up, make it look
Yeah.
good, make it look like something that is living and breathing, and you check that page every day, you know. Like that, that's
Yeah.
honestly one of the only social networks that I find myself active on anymore.
Yeah. It's a
Engagement
good one.
too. Respond on people's posts. You know, follow people who are in your area or are celebrities in the area you want to transition to. Um, Post like respond on their things, react with like a thumbs up thing. Just drive their content. You'll catch their attention. You'll catch other people's attention. People will see that like so and so and 34 others liked this post, and they'll see your name there because you keep showing up in there in the engagement. So all of those things really help people have eyes on you, and the more eyes you have on yourself on LinkedIn really is how to boost your chances of being noticed or being like recognized. Or when someone looks at your resume and they want to go drill into your LinkedIn, they see a healthy, thriving ecosystem on your LinkedIn page like that only reflects positively on you.
Mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely agree there. Okay. A lot of people had questions regarding like a lot of it was like kind of personal stuff, like how do I figure out what my next step should be? A lot of them boil down to people wanting to try and like identify their aptitude, their strength, what their skills might be. This is something that's really hard to gauge for ourselves if you're trying to, evaluate your own self. How did you do this when you were trying to figure out like where are my aptitudes, where are my strengths, like in what way did you go about assessing this for yourself?
Yeah, so I really kind of backed into my strengths. Like it wasn't until I found myself already in my career that I realized like, oh, I have soft skills that I learned from dealing with angry architects all day. Like I was able to bring that to nice programmers. So I kind of backed into there, but I did sort of come away with a lot of wisdom about that I hopefully pass on to people who are about to go through this endeavor. So I mentioned this earlier that a good way to just to key in on that what are your strengths is to think about yourself when you're not at work. Who are you? And this is really like, you don't need to answer in the chat, please. Um, but just like think about the things that you enjoy doing when nobody's watching and the things like, and what are those things? Like, what do you enjoy about it? When I realized that, oh, like, is it if I do I enjoy the solitude of yard work or do I enjoy the reward of, a good physical day of labor? Or is it the untangling of the jewelry for my spouse? Or is it the whatever it is, you can find sorting algorithms from folding laundry. Like there is
Hmm.
all sorts of things you can derive and be like, what is it about this that I like, and where else can I find that?
Hmm.
That is a very like, you also might talk to a life coach or a therapist about the importance of that kind of thing. And it can be very, very soul searching. If you want a more pragmatic answer, here are two very pragmatic answers for you. One is free, one is not. One is ask your friends, ask your existing coworkers, what do I do well? Where do I show up the best for the team? What do you like working with me about? If you start asking too many people this, they probably are going to figure out that you're about to quit, by the way. So don't go like asking your HR professional what they like about you.
Yeah, don't ask it in the morning stand up. Like this is like a lunchtime, like afternoon break kind of question. Yeah.
For sure. People you feel safe with asking, emotionally safe, ask them like, what are the things that I
Yeah.
can table? And don't also, maybe your manager is not the best person to ask about that because they're going to feel like they have to give you a review. And then there is an actual self-assessment test you can take. I just checked before this call. It's about $60 US called Clifton Strengths 34. Um,
Clifton Strengths 34. Okay.
and that is, it asks you a bunch of questions and it analyzes your strengths, your interests. I have done, when I first joined Zapier, there was another one called Berkman. And I think, I don't know how much Berkman costs, but I know that it's like a corporate thing and it's kind of expensive. It's sort of like the personality type, like the Myers-Briggs personality types, but
Hmm.
for 1,000 different aspects of your life. Um,
Yeah.
I found mine to be extremely accurate. And I don't know how much of that is just like going and talking to a medium and hearing what you want to hear, but the results were very accurate to what my strengths and my goals are. But it not only tells you that, but tells you a bit about yourself. Like, when you are at your best in this aspect, this is how you respond. And then when you are stressed in this aspect, this is how you respond. So those kinds of things are important to know too.
Hmm. I like those. The other thing, y'all, when you're asking these questions, consider the source, okay? Don't get your feelings hurt if somebody says something that you didn't think they were necessarily going to say. Consider the source and also consider how much information you're giving them. Because if all you're saying is, "Hey, what do you think my skills are, like my strengths are?" People just don't think too deep about it, okay? Don't hurt your own feelings. It'll be okay. There's a ton of people recommending strengths assessment and strength finder in the chat. I've taken that one as well. Power to Fly has our own free skill quiz, so it's for skill gaps. So if you're not sure where your gaps might be, that's a good one to do. And ours is free, so yeah, I think we're cool. All right, we have about 5 minutes left, and I want to make sure that we like kind of make the most of this time with Joel. Let's see. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you wanted to dive into, Joel? I think the only other thing the only area we didn't go into was like experience, but I think that was mostly about like navigating imposter syndrome, which is pretty, I mean, it's pretty individual, I would say.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, is there any area we haven't covered yet?
I'd like to talk a little bit about when the when the career change doesn't go well. Like,
Ooh, okay, yes.
yeah, because like it's nice to sit here and think that it's like we're all gonna like go learn to do something and get a job in 3 months. Because that's up to now, that's really how we've been framing this. But it's really not the reality for most people. It is a difficult challenge that costs money and taxes your relationships. And that's like, you have to really want it because passion will take you so far because passion tends to fizzle out when money starts to get tight, when your personal relationships start to suffer, and you're like, oh, okay, well, spending too much time over here, need to work out over here. So that's where like your personal prioritizations, you need to make sure that you've got those things dialed in. I have seen the flip side of a successful career transition for people who didn't see that sort of success, where they see them time and time, not time and time, but a bit longer, and they're not in the career of their dreams. So like when you find yourself in a long drawn out process and you're not seeing the success and you're feeling like it's just not working, you're probably experiencing a form of burnout. People talk about burnout as if like you're only allowed to have burnout when you're overworked at work, but you absolutely can get burned out looking for a job. Um,
Yeah.
and the
It's incredibly more common, y'all.
For sure, for sure. And my recommendation of the way to remediate from that sort of burnout is interestingly the same. A lot of times, if you're burned out in the gym or you're burned out at a workout, or if you're burned out from your job search, burned out at work, the number one advice you usually hear is to change something, is to take a break from that. Because if you've been grinding really hard on something for months and months and months, you're not seeing anything different, step back for a second and try to get a farther third person perspective of what has been happening. Um, and if you can, and think about like what can change. You might not have that answer. Like AI might not have that answer about what can change. It probably will, but it probably doesn't. So at that point, you just need to not do it for, I would say, a week. Just stop looking for a job for a week. Replace the time that you're going to be looking for a job, if you can afford it, right? Like keep grinding away if you need those checks. But you know, go for a walk, read a book. A book I really recommend on this is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Habits are the foundation of this type of action that you're about to go through, especially if habits and follow through are something that have been a challenge in the past. That book is a quick weekend read. You get through it because you just can't put it down because it's giving you actionable things that you can start doing while you're like, so oftentimes you'll put it down because you want to go start doing the things it's suggesting. Um, so yeah, walk away, read, do something different, play an instrument if
Touch
you
grass.
yeah. And then at that point, you find that your brain asynchronously in the background works on these things. Like your subconscious is thinking while you're not actively thinking. And after a week, give yourself a test. Like, what do I know now that I didn't know then? What is clearer now than it was then? And if things aren't better or you don't feel any refreshment from this burnout recall or whatever you want to call it, yeah, it might be a sign that okay, this process, the things that I'm going through are probably not right. And at that point, talking to a career life coach, this is a good thing. Another thing that ChatGPT is really good at is just like, give me a different path, right? This isn't working. I am feeling like this, and this. So tell me how I can not feel like this, and that. So
I love it. No, I think that's great. Um, Truly, Joel, this has been really fun, like really, really, really fun. Thank you so much for sitting with us, taking the hour out of your day. Obviously, I think most of us can tell you prepared for today. It wasn't just like you showed up and spent an hour with us. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise, your time, all of the prep work. This was really, really, really helpful, and I enjoyed myself immensely. So I very much hope that other people enjoyed it as well. But thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it.
yeah, find me on LinkedIn, Joel Taddei. I don't really do like too much career mentoring anymore out of that space, but yeah, if you connect with me, you got questions, I'm happy to give quick answers, help you on your way.
Yes, absolutely. To the rest of our audience members, y'all, obviously I love when you come to these events because it means I have a job. But I love even more that you just took 60 minutes out of your day to do something positive for yourself in your career. Okay. It's not easy. This is not a simple thing. These are very, very, very thankless tasks. So whether you're a little treat person or not, just listen to Meg. Okay. Give yourself the cookie, the gold star, the pat on the back, coffee drink, maybe not Starbucks is all I'm saying. But whatever is your thing, just give yourself the little treat. Okay, y'all, it's a thankless world out there and you're doing your best. So thank you to everybody who showed up, everybody who came to ask questions. We very much appreciate it. And whether today was your first event with Power to Fly or your 50th, I sincerely hope that you will be back here with us again sooner rather than later. That's going to be it for us today, but go out, have a happy, healthy rest of your day, week, weekend, have the day you voted for, and try and be nice to people. Okay, let's do our best. We'll see y'all on the next one.